What's up everybody, I'm HoopsandHipHop, and it is finally time to count down my personal top 5 Kanto Pokemon. This has been a long time coming because we have counted down my top 5 Pokemon from every other region, and now it's time to finally go through the Pokemon in the very first region where it all started. I hadn't really thought about my top 5 Pokemon before this list, and what ended up transpiring as I was figuring it out turned out to be pretty interesting. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now the first pick on this list is Blastoise. I always really liked Blastoise because he's awesome. I mean, you can't really say that Blastoise is bad. However, the reason why he makes my top 5 is because he was always my go-to starter in the Kanto games. I know everyone loves Charizard, and I love Charizard too. I just went with Blastoise because to me, he was always like the coolest water Pokemon that was available. Like, I knew I needed a water Pokemon because I needed to be able to surf places, and my choices to me weren't great in terms of Kanto. There were some okay ones, like you had like Poliwrath, and I mean Lapras is good, but you can't really get it till later in the game. So to me, Blastoise and Squirtle at the start was by far the best water Pokemon to go with. And I just really loved having him on my team because he was an awesome Pokemon. He was a great water Pokemon to have for Surf. He was awesome in the anime with Blue. Like, it was so cool to find out that which starter Gary eventually chose when we finally got to see him and Ash duke it out in the Pokemon League. So overall, Blastoise is just a sick Pokemon, and he is my number 5. Number 4 on this list is Pidgeot, and Pidgeot and Pidgey and that entire evolutionary line has always been one of my favorite starting bird evolution families. Like, I really love Pidgeot just because of how cool it is and because of how early you can get it in the game. Pidgey is literally like the first Pokemon in the Kanto region that you encounter once you set out on your journey, and it was even the first Pokemon for Ash, so it's a super common Pokemon, so you wouldn't really like expect it to evolve into anything like crazy, but Pidgeot actually pulls that off really well. Pidgeot is a really cool Pokemon despite being essentially just a bird. Like, it's a normal flying type, nothing super special there, but I always really liked it because of its design. I really love its colorful feathers that it has on its head, and it's awesome that it got a Mega Evolution. The only bad thing about Pidgeot is that Ash never went back and got his, and we never got to see what happened to it later in the anime. That's literally the only thing bad about it. Ash, what are you doing? You're an idiot. I've always loved Pidgeot. Once again, I seem to like a lot of the Pokemon that Blue had, both in the games and in the anime as Gary, because he also had a Pidgeot, and I just remember thinking how cool it was that Blue used a Pidgeot as well, and so that's why he's my number 4. Now, number 3 is Sandshrew and Sandslash, and you might have guessed this pick based on the fact that I've got a Sandshrew plush right behind me. Now, I haven't really used Sandshrew or Sandslash that much, to be honest. I've just always really liked their designs. Like, they're just a cool little shrew Pokemon, I guess, and Sandslash always really stood out to me because he's got the spikes everywhere, and so as a little kid, that always really made me think he was cool just because he had the spikes, and spikes were cool for some reason. I watched a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, so the spiky hair, so maybe that explains it, but I always really liked Sandslash. He always stood out to me, and then Sandshrew was also really good because it was like the cuter counterpart to Sandslash. Sandslash was cool and Sandshrew was cute, so they really worked well together. And I also liked that it wasn't like a stereotypical rock or ground type, I guess you could say, because like Geodude and Onix and a couple other those, they're like literally just rocks. So I liked that Sandshrew was a ground type, but it wasn't just like a basic design like a rock or something like that. And then in Sun and Moon, we got Alolan Sandshrew and Sandslash, which completely flipped the script and made their typings essentially opposite of what they are in Kanto, which was amazing. Plus, Sandshrew is an igloo, and you can't argue with that. Like, I don't care if you don't like Sandshrew. Igloo Sandshrew is awesome no matter what you think. So that's why they are both my number 3. Now, number 2 is Nidoking, and I actually really love Nidoking for a variety of reasons. The first reason I like it is because its design, it's really cool. The second reason I like it is because of the variety of moves it can use. It has a really wide move pool, which is awesome. And then the most important reason is my relationship with Nidoking in the game. I started off with Pokemon Yellow version. It was my very first Pokemon in the game that I played back in Generation 1. And obviously in that game you start off with a Pikachu, so battling Brock as the first gym leader is extremely hard because he's got the advantage on your Pikachu. So it's not like with Charmander or Squirtle or Bulbasaur where you could get away with beating Brock with just that Pokemon if there wasn't any other Pokemon that you were interested in. So that basically forced me as a Pokemon Yellow player to catch a Nidoran because it could learn Double Kick at level 12, and that was super effective against rock types. So that was basically a requirement back in the day for playing Pokemon Yellow, and so through using Nidoran male so much, and it eventually evolved into Nidoking, like it just developed a love for that entire evolution line for me because it was what allowed me to finally get past Brock. I remember struggling so much, and even when I figured out that Nidoran could learn Double Kick and beat Brock, it still was a grind to get it up to level 12 where it learned Double Kick. So I just spent so much time with Nidoran, and by extension Nidorino and Nidoking, that it just made me really love this Pokemon. And I always thought it was really cool as a kid that Nidorino evolved at level 16, and by the time it evolved, you were basically at Mount Moon, and you could find a Moonstone, which means you could also like instantly evolve it into Nidoking and have a fully evolved Pokemon before you even challenge the second gym, which isn't really good for the Pokemon's stats, like in hindsight, but it was amazing to me as a young kid. Like I thought it was like the coolest guy ever going up against Gary or Blue and Misty with a fully evolved Nidoking. It was just really cool, and that's why he's my number 2. And my number 1 favorite Kanto Pokemon, believe it or not, is Mew. Now, I really like Mew, and everyone really likes Mew. You can't really hate on the Pokemon because it's really cool. But the reason why I really like it is a pretty special reason. So, as I'm sure all of you know, Mew was a Pokemon that was included very late in the game by Shigeki Morimoto, and it ended up being found with the infamous Mew glitch, and it was a really sought-after Pokemon for a very, very long time. It still is a sought-after Pokemon, even with the additional events we have today. But the biggest reason, the sole reason why Mew is my favorite Kanto Pokemon is because it essentially saved Pokemon. It made it what it is today. The Mew glitch was what really caused the Pokemon mania frenzy that happened in the late 90s. The Mew glitch and Mew itself was really what started that and allowed it to happen, because people had been playing Pokemon, but then when they discovered that there was a secret, unknown Pokemon that was rumored to be in the game, and you didn't really know if it was, you just heard about it. It created a frenzy because everyone wanted this Pokemon. They wanted to find out where it was and how to get it, and through doing so, it just developed a love for the franchise in so many people. And so Mew is essentially what made Pokemon as popular as it is, and it's probably why Pokemon is still around today. So for that reason, Mew has my eternal gratitude. I just love it for that, in addition to just being a really cool Pokemon in general, and so that's why it's my number 1. And there you have it. Those were my top 5 Kanto Pokemon. Now, even though we have finished out all of the regions, there are still a couple more top 5 videos in this series that I need to do. Namely, top 5 Mega Evolutions and top 5 Alola forms. So I'm going to be doing the top 5 Mega Evolution video 2 weeks from now, and then the Alola form video will follow that. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely leave a like on this video, let me know what you thought of it, and then subscribe for those videos as well as the rest of the videos that I'll have coming in the coming weeks, because I upload every Tuesday and Saturday. Anyways, with all of that being said, I'll be back with another video soon, and until then, I'll smell you guys later.